Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Freedom on Deck on 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. That's right. You heard it right. It's the redneck, and he's back. Joined by the mean one, Chet Martin.
Chin-checking liberals, trannies, and muzzies, oh my.
Oh, yeah, baby. We're going to get into it all. But before we get into everything, who do we got coming on today, Chet?
Oh, we got Kenneth Timmerman. He is a New York Times bestseller. He's got the new book, ISIS Begins, a novel of the Iraq War, and he contributed to Time Magazine. And now he contributes with Newsmax and a lot of other conservative affiliates because he was chased off by the liberal media.
Of course.
And thrown into the dustbin of history, according to them. And then we also have Paul Sutliff. He's the author of Civilization Jihad, the Myth of Moderate Islam. And he's been doing a lot of research on jihad spreading throughout Europe, what's going on there. We're going to be talking about all these vehicular attacks that have been happening over in the UK. We just had one last week.
Yep.
We had one in Canada last month.
Mm-hmm.
We had one in the United States about 4 or 5 months ago.
Yep.
It's a picking up trend now that ISIS is promoting, and they call it the biggest lawnmower, is what ISIS refers to it as in their promotional magazine, and they're urging their followers to do that so that people don't feel safe wherever they're going. At any time, you could be ran over by a car,
That's
or
crazy.
a truck.
The media doesn't cover it, and they're out of control too. I posted, Trump is in town here on our side of the pond, and I posted. There was a picture of Congressman Zeldin with Trump, and I reposted it. It was somebody else's post, and all I said was #MAGA, #KAG 2020.
Right.
I love my president. I love my congressman.
Right.
And Facebook banned it. It said
they banned it?
Yeah, something went wrong with this. We could not post this.
Oh, come on.
And it's like, come on, man. You can't even say that you love the president anymore. But listen, I've had a good couple of weeks. I got to spend some time with my boy, Christian, and for all you listening, if you don't know, my son Christian joined the Navy. He went in on Wednesday, this past Wednesday, and I am a very, very, very proud Navy dad.
Absolutely. I'm proud of your son, too, man. I'm a proud uncle because he calls me Uncle Chet.
That's right.
I love the kid, man. Love him.
I'm so proud of him. So this is one thing that has caused me to take a different look at a lot of the things that are going on in the country, because now it affects me because it affects my son
tenfold.
And I couldn't be more thankful that he is serving under this president versus what the other outcome could have been.
Mm-hmm.
And but there's a lot of challenges that this president faces, and let's face it, with everything that the media is throwing at him, he has also this shadow government that is operating, former government officials, current government officials, and one of those officials, obviously, is Brennan.
Mm-hmm.
And Trump this week stripped Brennan of his top security clearance, and I think it is absolutely a misstep that this country has taken in allowing them, former employees of the government, to have these security clearances after they leave office. There is no other job that I can think of that allows you. Listen, if any of you left your jobs today or tomorrow when you went into work, you quit, okay, the first thing that your company or boss is going to do is take your keys, if you have any. They're going to take any credentials that you have. They're going to take any company credit cards, passwords, alarm codes. Any of that stuff is all going to be changed. It's going to be taken from you, and you are no longer going to have access to that corporation, company, job, whatever it is.
Or if you're in the military.
Exactly.
They take your clearance from you as soon as you get discharged.
Sure.
Honorably, they take it.
That's right.
Dishonorably, they take it. As
That's
soon
right.
as you leave the door, it's gone.
That's right.
So why should it be any different for government officials?
I don't see why it should be. And the under the guise that it's in case that they need to be if somebody needs to turn to them for
Bull.
training purposes.
They already
and all this
have
other
them
stuff.
in there.
So
We
you're
don't need
telling
them.
right. So you're telling us that the FBI, nobody in the FBI except for Brennan, well, he was in the CIA, but nobody in the FBI or nobody in the CIA has the mind or the wherewithal to train somebody that came in new. Give me a break.
And then I don't see, Brian, how Trump revoking Brennan's security clearance is a violation of his freedom of speech rights, which he went out on Twitter and said, and then released an article in the Washington Post after he said that his freedom of speech has been quelled.
Really?
Well, how are you putting out articles through the Washington Post and appearing on MSLSD when you no longer have your freedom of speech?
Right, and your freedom of speech hasn't been quelled because you didn't have the freedom to speak on anything that you were privy of, because anything that you were privy of, Mr. Brennan, would have been top security.
Exactly.
It would have been top secret. So you wouldn't have had the ability to speak of it in the first place.
And, you know, John Brennan is a very shady character. There are so many troubling details and accusations, Brian, when it comes to Brennan. It is factual that he was a member of the Communist Party during the 70s. He even admitted to voting for candidates of the Communist Party, voting for Gus Hall as president of the United States. He was actually grilled about his affiliation before being sworn in to the CIA by CIA leaders. And there are plenty of interviews with Brennan discussing this. All you have to do is go look it up on YouTube. And then there's also Roger Stone's infamous accusation that Brennan converted to Islam, supported by former top FBI Islam expert John Guandolo, who claimed that Brennan converted while in Saudi Arabia. And don't forget his spying on American citizens. He spearheaded that. He spearheaded the IRS going after conservative groups. This guy is a bad guy. There's no doubt about it. And why wouldn't he be the first one that Trump goes after? But he shouldn't be the last.
Listen, you had a double agent that was working in Yemen that this guy, released the goods on while he was still in the country.
Right.
Come on. He's a bad actor.
Really bad.
Really bad.
Really bad actor.
And he needed to go. And, I'm sorry, but this is the Trump administration. You served under the Bush and Obama administrations. See you later, dude.
And there's a lot.
See ya.
And there's
You're
not
part of this administration.
And Brian, there's a lot more coming out. Trump said Friday his next target for stripping security clearance is high-ranking Justice Department official Bruce Orr.
I know he was fired, but does Strzok have clearances still?
He probably does.
He should be stripped right now,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're fired. Hello.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
And it's we're not only picking on the Obama administration. Strip them all.
All of them.
Anyone that's sitting
the
home,
120 that came out that are all former FBI or CIA that are speaking out against the president. Strip them all.
Strip them all.
Shut up.
Shut up. And, make it clear across the board. Bush administration, Clinton administration folks. Unless you're still in the FBI or the CIA or the IRS, and some of them, even if they are, need to be kicked out.
Yeah.
But the ones that aren't, there's no reason for them to have that security clearance.
No.
And why is everybody up in arms on the left about this? What's the big deal?
Because they have to keep the narrative away from the positive things
which we're getting into next.
That this Trump administration is doing.
Yes.
And, because, listen, the facts are the facts, and he is winning. He is winning with demographics across this country. He is winning with the economy. And, if they report on that, it fits the narrative for people to re-elect him in 2020.
That's
and
true.
That's not what they want to do.
That's true.
We're going to come back, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about how the stocks jumped on last Thursday as hopes grow for the U.S.-China trade talks. China's talking about sending over a trade, a trade or a group, I guess, whatever you want to call it, to talk with us and basically sit down and hash this out and stop a trade war with the United States.
Come back to Freedom on Deck.
Welcome back to Freedom on Deck on 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. Redneck at the helm. Right along with the mean one.
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
I love this. I love winning.
Big league.
I love MAGA.
Of course.
Oh, yeah. And on Thursday, last Thursday, U.S. stocks jumped Thursday as China and the United States said they will hold their first trade discussions in months, a potential sign of progress towards ending their trade war. China is to send a trade envoy, word I couldn't think of, to Washington this month in a new attempt to end the trade dispute before it causes major damage to the global economy. The two sides haven't talked since early June. Energy and metal prices and shares of industrial companies turned higher. Walmart soared after reporting unusually strong growth in sales. Other companies that make and sell basic necessities rose too. The Standard & Poor's 500 index climbed 22.32 points or 0.8%, and the Dow Jones average jumped 396 points in a day, or 1.6%. As Walmart and Boeing made big gains. The NASDAQ composite rose 32 points. So, I mean, listen, Trump is winning. The thing that he's doing best, and it may actually
despite all the naysayers,
it may actually be the best strategy that I've ever seen, is he's making the changes. He's not talking about it. He's just doing it. The economy is growing. His approval rating amongst Black Americans is at 40%. Huge.
I mean, that's better than Bush's was.
That's better than I think Barry's at certain points in his 8 years.
I don't think so, but because
we'll have to look at the numbers.
A lot of manipulated people out there, but he's doing very good with blacks and Hispanics.
Exactly.
And they are losing it because of that.
And think about this strategy, though. So he's turning the economy around. He's renegotiating these trades.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking with Korea. He just got 50 American soldiers back from Korea.
Imposing tariffs that are working. They said wouldn't, obviously, from what you just said.
Yep. That obviously are working. And think about that strategy for a minute. So he's making the changes. He is going to be able to speak on that record.
Yes.
And all the media and the left can do is go out there.
Russia. Omaroso.
Go out there and represent a district and tell people to go out and accost the administration and people that are working for this administration. You got to think about that for a minute. All they are talking about is hate and division, and Trump keeps just training on, bro.
Sure, right here in New York, you had Governor Raggedy Andy saying America was never that great. And now, of course, he's backpedaling, and even the Democrats are coming out, why did you say that? Because that's what he feels.
Oh, yeah.
Here's a guy that his grandparents immigrated to the United States, and look how well that family did. Look at how well and prosperous the Cuomos are in New York. You became governor. Look at your brother on CNN every night. I mean, my God, look at your father.
Mobsters do pretty well usually.
His father was very with the mob. But his father was not an anti-American bum like he is.
No.
And this is the direction that the Democrats are going down.
And anybody that says anything that in favor of Trump, you just had the owner of Sam Adams up in Boston say that Trump's tax break is working. It is allowing his business to expand and grow, and that's all he said. All he said was that he was benefiting from the Trump's tax plan, and the left went bonkers. The mayor of Boston, went into a tirade.
Don't serve Sam Adams.
Sam
Adams is Boston, mofo. Don't talk like that. Sam Adams is a great company out of Boston, too. A good American company.
That's right. And I'll tell you what, I do like me some Boston lager.
So does Trump, obviously. And I'll tell you what, some Boston lager likes some Trump.
Yeah.
Because things are working. GDP 4.1 last month. At the last month of Barack Obama, 1.4 GDP.
Yep.
And remember when Trump said, I can get the GDP up to 4? He
and they laughed
he
at him.
predicted this.
Laughed
and
at
Obama
him.
said, what are you going to do, wave a wand? You remember he said that?
Yeah, I wonder where he keeps it.
The wand?
Yeah.
Probably at Hogwarts. Maybe at Hogwarts. Maybe at Hogwarts, right?
Man. Yo.
It's just, it's frustrating that, and it seems like the media does this, Brian. When things are going really well,
Oh, yeah.
they will come out with Omaroso, or they'll come out with some porn star, or they'll come out with more fake information on Russia, and CNN will beat you over the head with it. Notice they never talk about the economy. And when they do, I was interested in this the other day. Laura Ingraham was talking about it in the New York Times. They were forced to talk about how well the economy is, and they did talk about it, but they did not say due to President Trump.
No.
They did not say under the direction of President
Well,
Trump.
It's just common sense. Of course. We were so horrible it could only go up.
Well, he rode the coattails of Obama into the
Yeah.
White House.
Yeah.
This was all Obama.
Yeah, Obama set this all up.
This is 2 years later. The reason of all this success is because of confidence, consumer confidence, and the confidence of the American people and businesses that are thriving under this administration, like it or not.
That's right.
And I'll tell you something, all you lefty loonies out there I see all over social media, you are not winning in 2020. He is.
Yep.
You're going to have to deal with 8 years of this man, and I'm going to love every second of it. And I hope this time around people understand how too far to the left you have gone, and we either put in Mike Pence or somebody else that can continue the MAGA movement.
Exactly. I think that's what we need. We definitely have to continue turning this around. And I think the only thing that the left is doing, that the Democrats are doing right now, and I think really, truly, Americans are waking up. Americans see it in their pocketbooks, in their wallets. They see it, in every aspect of their life. And it goes across the board. I don't care what city, town you're in. It goes across the board. I think Americans are waking up and they're realizing that they're tired of hearing the negativity and the onslaught of the left. And it's like, for God's sake, can you just let up and let's turn this thing around?
And, the poll numbers are showing a good reflection of Trump's approval rating. It's somewhere around 50%, hovering there right now. Can you imagine if the people that were afraid to admit that they support the president admitted they supported the president, where it would be at? Because let me tell you, there's so much bullying going around that there's a lot of people, they won't say it, but when they go into that booth, they're voting for Donald Trump, and you know it.
Oh, absolutely, dude.
And they're going to feel it.
Yeah.
They're going to feel it, and I can't wait for it, man. It is what it's going to be, and it's going to be a big shock to them. I'll tell you. Can you imagine someone like Frank Dallas when Trump gets reelected?
Listen, I know one thing.
sorry.
I think November is going to really shed some light on where things go. Because if the American people give up the House to the Democrats, then forget the MAGA, because it ain't happening.
No, but that's not going to happen. There's no blue wave coming, I'll tell you that. It's not.
I am just simply saying, do not let that happen, people.
No, absolutely not. But listen, anyway, come back to FOD, because we have the fabulous Kenneth Timmerman. He is a New York Times bestseller. He's got the new book, ISIS Begins, a novel of the Iraq War. And you're not going to want to miss this. We're going to be talking about terrorism. Of course, this is Freedom on Deck. Don't you dare go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody, to Freedom on Deck, 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk, Connecticut, Long Island, and Rhode Island. WJJF on your FM dial. You're rocking with the best. Chet Martin, Brian Bro, both at the helm. And, of course, go to freedomondeck.com. You can check out all of our social media there, our Facebook, our Twitter, our BitChute, our YouTube channel. You can listen to any of the midweek podcasts or any of the archives from FM radio there. It's a one-stop shop for you. Great place to go and get in depth with your conservative community, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? That's how we're going to win again in 2018 and moving forward into 2020.
That's right.
That's what it's all about. But listen, it's at time of the show that we bring on a fantastic guest, and we'd like to welcome our first guest to today's program. He's the director of Foundation for Democracy in Iran. He's a New York Times bestseller and author of the new book, and many a book, but his new book is ISIS Begins, a novel of the Iraq War. Kenneth Timmerman. Kenneth, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on, Chet. It's a great pleasure to be with you.
You know, looking into your background, Kenneth, I wanted to get in the book first. Now, ISIS Begins was previously released and updated after your most recent trips to Iraq. Tell our listening audience what ISIS Begins, a novel for the Iraq War, is all about.
Well, a number of us who have gone on mission trips and reporting trips in northern Iraq over the past decade have seen this beginning, seen it happening. We saw al-Qaeda go to ground during the surge, and yet it didn't disappear. It was still there underground. And once Obama came in office and announced a day certain for the U.S. withdrawal, ISIS began to form. It formed an allegiance with the Ba'ath Party. This is Saddam Hussein's party, his intelligence networks, the stay-behind networks in Iraq, and the combination of those two, the stay-behind intelligence networks and the remnants of al-Qaeda, that's what gave us ISIS. And you could see it happening. You could see ISIS beginning already in 2009, 2010. But for Obama, it was just the JV team.
Now, Ken, in 2008, you warned the United States government and the American public that Christians were facing extinction in northern Iraq, and your warning certainly came to fruition. Did the U.S. government knowingly allow ISIS to come to power?
Yes, they did, and we know that now from documentary evidence that during the Obama administration there was a policy to favor Sunni jihadi groups in the Middle East in general, in Libya, in Syria, and also in Iraq. And it's absolutely tragic to see that happening. We saw the persecution of Christians, and that's what my book is about. It's about an Iraqi Christian interpreter who works for U.S. Special Forces in Iraq, and he gets chased by a jihadi group. His family is persecuted. His brother gets murdered. His sister is kidnapped and raped. And this is happening every day, every single day. I wanted to tell that story. I thought it was important for Americans to feel it in their gut, not just read it as a detached journalist news story.
Kenneth, if ISIS was a clear and present danger in 2008, as you said, and understanding that Obama was, letting them come to power, why would he publicly call them the JV team? Was that in order to discredit ISIS so the media would follow his lead and then would divert the American public? Is that what the planning was behind all that?
It was a deception, and I think many of Obama's policies were deceptive. They say, look at my left hand. Look at my left hand over here. Don't pay attention to what my right hand is doing. He did that in Libya. The left hand was the so-called YouTube video that he blamed the Benghazi attacks on, while his right hand was sending arms to the rebels in Syria, completely illegal. So this is a modus operandus of the Obama administration that we saw time and time again.
So ISIS really came about earlier than most of the American public think, right? Like you say...
That's right.
Okay, so back in 2008 is when we started to arm them? Or when did we start knowingly doing stuff like that?
No, that happened more in 2010, 2011. In 2008 and 2009 was when people like myself, I warned the public and I warned the government that this was happening. It's happening on the ground. We can stop it. But nobody did anything about it. But it was in 2010, 2011, and especially 2012 that things got particularly bad, and that the U.S. government got involved working with these jihadi groups.
Ken, you once said in an interview with the New English Review that Obama likes radical Islamic rule. Did he want that only in the Middle East or in the Western civilized world as well? Does he want it spread throughout, or do they want to keep it in pockets?
Well, in my to start with, in the Middle East, because it's easier there, it's more direct. But as I wrote in my second book on Benghazi, it's called Deception: The Making of the YouTube Video that Hillary and Obama blamed for Benghazi. I talk about Hillary Clinton's efforts at the United Nations to essentially get blasphemy statutes enacted worldwide that would allow governments to prosecute people who, quote, defamed Islam. It didn't matter defaming Christianity or Judaism. That's okay.
Right.
But if you defame Islam, Hillary wanted to be able to prosecute you. And that's, by the way, what she did with the maker of that YouTube video, as I recount in my book, Deception.
Now, why do they want to... do they want to profit from Islam? Is Islam a key to push forward their communist agenda? Is that what's going on here with the Democrats?
Well, I think Obama in particularly had a soft spot for radical Islamic terrorism. First of all, he didn't think it was terrorism. He thought it was justice.
Right.
Remember, that's what they think. They're bringing justice to the world. Remember that time when Obama said, I can still remember how beautiful it was to listen to the muezzin when I was a child, chanting the Quran during the call to prayer. John Brennan, by the way, the former CIA director, said a very similar thing to an audience in Arabic, but he wouldn't translate into English. It's very curious, the deception of some of the top leadership in the Democrat Party and their love for Islamic rule.
We were just talking previously, a segment before, about John Brennan. Is there any truth that he converted to Islam? Do you know anything about that?
I've heard that many times. I would qualify it as a rumor. I can't prove it. But the way that he has spoken about Islam certainly suggests that if he didn't convert to Islam, he certainly is an advocate of Sharia law.
Throughout recent years, and we're talking to Kenneth Timmerman, director for Foundation for Democracy in Iran, also New York Times best-selling author. Now, Kenneth, throughout recent years, we've heard about supporting rebel groups in Syria to combat Assad. Are these rebels, in fact, ISIS or linked to ISIS in any way?
Oh, well, absolutely. There are several factions. There are flavors of jihad, if you wish, in Syria. But up until recently, ISIS had its capital. The capital of its caliphate was in Syria, in Raqqa, and they got kicked out. It's kind of interesting to see how quiet they have become ever since, because they were saying, this is our eternal caliphate, the capital of our eternal caliphate here in Raqqa. Whoops, we lost it. I guess the caliphate has gone someplace else. But yeah, they were absolutely in Syria. They were certainly in Iraq. They're the ones, ISIS are the ones who stormed into Mosul in June of 2014 and then swept across the Nineveh Plain, which is where my book ISIS Begins takes place, which is the historic homeland of the Assyrian Christian community in Iraq, one of the oldest Christian communities in the world, by the way.
Does it matter to our government who's really spreading this terrorism, whether it's ISIS, whether it's Al-Qaeda? Does it matter to them, or is it whatever faction can create the most havoc that they're willing to prop up?
Well, I don't think it matters to the Trump administration. I think President Trump understands that they're all bad. But during Obama's 8 years, he brought on analysts, and he himself made the argument that there were different levels of jihad. There was a nonviolent jihad and then a violent jihad. You had political Islam and then violent radical Islam. Frankly, as I write also in Deception, the only difference between those two types of groups is timing and tactics. Both the so-called moderates and the jihadis, they both want to impose Sharia law. They both want to establish a worldwide Islamic caliphate. It's just a matter of how, when do they do it, and how much, and when do they start using violence?
Again, we have Kenneth Timmerman, New York Times best-selling author, and it's always a big deal to have a New York Times best-selling author, especially when it's a fantastic conservative, because you're certainly not going to be called by NPR. But how depleted, Ken, has ISIS become? How depleted are they right now?
Well, the real concern is a new resurgence. ISIS beginning again in Iraq, in particular. The United Nations released a report earlier this week where they estimated there were still between 20 to 30,000 ISIS terrorists remaining in Iraq and Syria. The Pentagon initially disputed that number, but later there was an IG report, an Inspector General report, that also claimed that there were over 20,000 ISIS fighters left in Iraq and Syria. So this fight isn't over. The Pentagon was telling us it's over. The Iraqi government is telling us it's over. It's not over. It is unfortunately not over. And the Christians of the Nineveh Plain, who are the heroes of my book, ISIS Begins, they know it.
Now, Mr. Timmerman, let's say I'm President Trump. I come to you and I say, Ken, what should I do to eradicate ISIS? What would your answer to him be?
Well, you have to kill enough of them that the ideology no longer draws new recruits. That's the problem, because they keep on substituting new recruits for the ones they lose on the battlefield. You have to defeat them absolutely, utterly on the battlefield, and that in itself disproves their ideology. It shows that their ideology is bankrupt.
And we really see it spreading throughout Europe right now, especially with all these attacks that are happening next to Parliament, cars and trucks going through groups of people, stabbings, you name it. It's all happening over there, and it's happening over here too. But, there's a real danger over there with a lot of Islamic politics coming into power now over there. Where do you see Europe in 20 years having to do with the spread of jihad over there, Ken?
Well, with the current tendencies, Europe is committing suicide. If Europe does not radically change course, you will have an Islamic State in Belgium. Already you have something like 30% of the population in Brussels is Muslim. They expect in 2020 it'll be 50%. Trust me, they will be imposing Sharia law all across the city if that happens. The French, I think, are more likely to put it down because they're much less tolerant of this ideology and a little bit more violent than people normally think of them. The Germans have lost their country to the waves of immigrants, and the Swedes, oh my gosh, the poor Swedes. It used to be 15, 20 years ago, young girls could go out in short shorts and half dressed at night in Stockholm and wander home by themselves, not a care in the world. Nobody ever bothered them. Today, can't think of it. They have to go out accompanied because they're young Muslim gangs roaming around, raping them in the streets.
Kenneth, it was a fantastic interview. I want to give you at least 30 seconds to tell everybody where they can go and check you out and where they can get your books, sir.
Thank you very much. Well, ISIS Begins is in Barnes & Nobles, and if it's not, you can ask them to have it in your local store. You can go to my website, kentimmerman.com. It's just my name, kentimmerman.com, and there's a link that will take you directly to Amazon so you can buy the book online as well.
Excellent, excellent. Everybody, that was Kenneth Timmerman, and go to kentimmerman.com. He is a New York Times best-selling author, fantastic guy, and we hope to get him back real soon. But listen, folks, the next one, New York officer leaping into action to save a boy. You won't see the media pointing out the great work that our men and women in blue do, but they do it, and we're here to tell you about it. Come back to Freedom on Deck.
Welcome back to Freedom on Deck, 94.9 News Now and stimulating talk. Gotta love when we have the opportunity to give credit where credit's due. We have a New York police officer who jumped off an overpass. Literally leapt into action off an overpass to save a boy's life. On last Friday, a New York police officer sprang into action after she spotted a young boy jumping from an overpass. Officer Jesse Ferreira Cavallo of the Hastings on Hudson, New York Police Department was on her way to work when she saw a boy jump from an overpass and quickly jumped over after him to render aid, USA Today reported last week. Everything happened so fast, and I think my adrenaline was pumping so high, said Cavallo. She jumped several feet from an overpass to the concrete below where the boy was unresponsive. The 12-year-old boy, that is the saddest part about this.
Yep.
The 12-year-old boy is now said to be recovering in the hospital. And when I say sad, I'm saying his age, that he thought he had to resort to this.
Could be bullying.
Obviously a suicide attempt.
Yep, could be.
I wasn't thinking
more
too
bullying.
much. I just knew when I looked down and saw him, he looked dead. I couldn't see anything other than blood. I thought to myself, he needs help, and I need to help him. This is a case, and you also, and I'm going to give credit here too as well. You had another woman later identified as U.S. Army soldier Nicole McKenzie also stopped to assist, and the pair were able to save the boy by putting him a neck brace on and a splint on him from McKenzie's medical bag. Here's two women, both serving this country in some form. Mm-hmm. One a police officer, and one an Army soldier. And the media is always putting out some sort of police shooting, some sort of this. They never talk about the good that the men and women in uniform do on a day-to-day basis, defending and protecting the people of this country, whether it's on the local level or the national level.
If it bleeds, it leads. If it earns, it burns.
And they just don't care.
Right.
It doesn't matter. If they knew about this, they wouldn't put it on the national nightly news.
No.
Okay? It just wouldn't go up. And, the thing is they saved this young man's life. Here's a woman that goes out, puts that uniform on every day.
Yep.
She's not out there shooting somebody. She's not out there racially profiling anybody.
No, and I guarantee
she's saving a young 12-year-old boy's life who jumped off an overpass to try to kill himself, obviously.
And I guarantee
he thought that was his only option.
I guarantee you she wasn't worried about the color of the boy's skin.
No.
That does not go through these officers' minds when they go into action. And if you think it does, you have bigger issues than I can even speak to. Believe me. Because I see people that say that. Oh, he's probably a white kid, had white privilege. The police actually helped him. That's the way people think out there. The left thinks. They think that these police don't risk everything every day. Well, they do. And they'll do it for any American out there. As long as they are able to, they will help you. 99.9%. Lee says it every day. It's such a small minority of police that are corrupted or have these types of views. Yes, there are some. Of course there are. There are bad doctors. There are bad lawyers. And there are some bad police. But 99.9% are the good men and women in blue that go out and sacrifice every day of their life.
You want to know how good she is?
Sure.
She's 28 years old, and she's been awarded 6 life-saving awards during her young career.
Good for her. See, this is the kind of shining example that the media and CNN should be like, look at this young lady. Look at what she's done.
She's also been
in her short time in law enforcement.
She's also been recognized for undercover work with the FBI and county task force.
She should be getting a nice little
presidential
Medal of Honor from President Trump.
I'll tell you right now, this is a stand-up human being.
Absolutely.
That is serving for all of the right reasons.
Absolutely.
And,
I agree.
And it I don't know. When I saw the story, I said, we got to talk about this.
It gets frustrating because, like you said, it's always negative when it comes to those that serve and protect. Always.
Always negative.
Whether it's the police, whether it's our military, it's always negative. They're the killers. They're the racists. They're the ones that are profiling. They're the harassers. No, they're not. Put yourself in their shoes one day. One day of your life, you do what they do. And tell me how it feels.
What do you think an overpass? I mean, you're talking about an overpass. I mean, even if it's a small overpass, like the train overpass out in East Hampton, that's still 10 feet to the bottom of the underpass that you can pass under, and then you got the other 4 or 5 feet above. So there's 15 feet. If this was a highway overpass, you're talking about 25, 30 feet. She's lucky she didn't break a bone or injure herself by doing what she did.
These are the people that go into action every day of their life, and it's what really frustrates me again in watching this preseason garbage with these know-nothing anti-patriotic football players taking the knee again, going to that stadium without those police there to protect you. See how it feels. Because I guarantee you wouldn't be taking the knee because you wouldn't show up. Because if anything, if those officers ever decided we're taking the week off, we're taking the month off, we're taking the year off, you go out there and defend yourselves. But they wouldn't do it because the people deserve their leadership, and they honor that.
Yeah.
But let me tell you folks something, all you miserable football players out there that want to take a knee for this country and this flag, you wouldn't be nothing without the men and women in blue. You wouldn't be playing that game every Sunday, believe me. And if they decided to stay home, you would feel it.
Oh yeah,
and you would fear it.
I tell you right now, I am not watching any football at all whatsoever. No fantasy football leagues. No football. Nothing. I'm waiting for hockey.
3 years now for me.
I'm gonna watch baseball.
This will be my third year for me.
It's baseball, hockey.
It's 3 years for you too, right?
Yeah.
3 years for me.
This will be my third season.
I didn't even watch last year the Patriots, and I forgot who won the Super Bowl. I don't even know. It was I can't even think. See, I know the Patriots were in it, and I remember talking to Lee Elsey and saying, maybe this year, Lee, I'll watch the Super Bowl and then I'll see what they do. Yeah. But then they had this ad that the pro-military group was supposed to put out, and they screwed us again. So I said, forget them. And now they're doing it again. You know what? I'm done for good now. I'm done for good now. It's over. You have lost a customer.
Yeah. It goes further than that too, because now they got male cheerleaders.
I saw that. How bizarre is that?
They don't have male cheerleaders in baseball or hockey or NASCAR.
No. You never know.
Drag racing.
You never know. Liberalism
is
a metal.
Girls still they still drop the flag in drag racing, right?
That's right. Listen, we're going to be coming back with our second guest of the day, Paul Sutliff. He is the author of Civilization Jihad, the Myth of Moderate Islam. Come on back to Freedom on Deck. How you doing, everybody? Welcome back to Freedom on Deck. Glad that you're staying with us on your Sunday. It's important that you do. Keep it here. Locked on 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. Connecticut, Long Island, and Rhode Island, of course. WJJF on your FM dial. Well, it's time for our second guest of the day. And he is no stranger to the show. He's writer, speaker, blogger, and radio host himself, Paul Sutliff, who specializes in educating people on Islamic terrorism and jihad. Paul, welcome back to Freedom on Deck, sir.
Thank you. It's nice to be back.
You've studied the spread of Islamic infiltration throughout Europe, and we've seen an increase in vehicular attacks in both the United Kingdom, North America, and European nations. So, Paul, why are jihadi vehicular attacks growing in an alarming rate?
One of the number one reasons, believe it or not, is simply because they're preaching this in mosques. I mean, this is one of the things you can find by simply going. I love memory.org for the value it puts out. It has transcripts. It has video. You can find there's like a February 2nd, 2018 sermon given by Imam Muhammad Musa, and he's from the North Hudson Islamic Center in New Jersey. And he calls on Islamic teachers to be mindful of what they say in sermons. And he's talking about them, not preaching about jihad. Because, telling them not to preach on jihad, and they're already doing it. There's multiple accounts that we've had over almost one every month throughout North America. We've had 2 mosques closed in Canada for preaching this kind of hatred. They haven't been closed in Canada. No, what they did was they took away their charitable status.
Right.
They should have closed them.
Wow.
But, this is the stuff that's happening in mosques. So, we have to expect that if you're going to preach it in mosques, that, you're going to get people who actually listen and obey. There's just a number of that type of thing happening. The other thing is, you've got ISIS and Al-Qaeda out there telling people, look, they give you exact instructions. I like Dr. Ahmet Yaila's work. He actually outlined what they're doing. He did this 2 years ago. He talked about, he actually gave it an outline. Like, here it is. I'm going to give you a breakdown. It said to ISIS and Al-Qaeda, so this is one. Is this from, actually, sorry, I'll double check this one. If this is ISIS or this is ISIS. ISIS said, go get a large 4x4 truck and get a knife-like metal blades on the bumpers. But we've never seen that, of course.
Right.
Because those are the guys that get pulled over.
Right.
People would see that. So that's not happening here in Western society. Choose the most crowded places to drive over people. And we do see them planning that.
Sure.
Drivers are not to stop after the first hit. You have to be told that. You think about that because it's instinctive to stop. And these people are taught, this is one of the things they're actually told. You don't stop after the first hit. You have to actually be told that. Here's the next one. They said, choose the routes appropriate to ensure that there should be many other victims after the first initial hit. And we hear about them, scoping out where they're going to get the most targets. And the next thing, this is credit to Dr. Yaila for doing this. These kinds of attacks should be considered suicide missions. And ISIS tells the drivers, get a fake gun or a real gun. If you can't get a real gun, make it fake. Now, we've heard about these drivers who have done this actually holding fake guns, hoping to get shot. And this has actually happened. So here's the thing that's really hard about it: the ease in getting a truck rental. Yeah, we don't think about that as a bad thing. In general, it shouldn't be hard for you to go get a truck because you're not going to use it to kill somebody. But unfortunately, jihadis do that. This is part of the problem. So why is it happening more often? This is the thing. There's no affiliation required. You don't have to be an ISIS member. You don't have to be an Al-Qaeda member. All you have to be is a devout Muslim, willing to listen to groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda, and take their advice. And take that. And that's one of the reasons. Again, nobody's going to detect you because you don't have to be a member of a particular group. There's another thing. Nobody has to get specialized training. To drive a truck, you don't have to have that unless we're talking about a semi-truck. Generally, you can go down and rent a U-Haul or something else that's a reasonable size, and it won't cost anything.
Paul,
maybe 100, maybe 150. It's not that much.
We have Paul Sutliff, the author of Civilization, Jihad, the Myth of Moderate Islam, on with us. And Paul, I didn't mean to cut in, but is part of the vehicle attack, in your opinion, committed by these jihadists in a way to spread fear that you can be attacked anytime, anywhere, by anything, including a car driven by a terrorist? Because, then people are in fear constantly, going to the grocery store, going to a marketplace like the Christmas marketplace that there was an attack. Is that part of the reason and relevance that they do it?
It is exactly the reason they do it. They want us to remember, that one of the last things Muhammad talked about was his victory in terror. Okay, and this is their prophet, their perfect man. They want us to think of being, in fear, unless we don't convert to Islam. So we should live in fear of them, and it's so against our belief structure. There's so many reasons for it to be against our belief structure, but they'll come out and say we love death more than you love life. So we have to understand they have a totally different way of thinking, and it's not it doesn't relate to our culture at all. I'm saying what do I mean by our? I'm talking about Western society as a whole.
Right.
I don't care where you're from, what part of the world you're in. If you subscribe to Judeo-Christian belief structure, or you subscribe to, if you live in a Western area, an area of the world considered Western, not necessarily, and this even includes Russia.
Yeah.
and that's the thing to think about. They would even include Russia in this because it's not a Muslim context, and that's the insanity. We do love life. We want to live forever.
Yeah.
Their concept of living forever is, Muhammad was once asked this by one of his men. What would make God laugh? So he says to the guy who asked him, take off all your armor and run into the fray. And they were at war. It was a bad battle going on. This guy takes off all his armor, runs in, and quickly gets killed. And this is the attitude of their prophet. Again, this comes from their seerah, Ibn Ishaq's seerah. If you just simply read their stuff, their histories, you find out this is entirely historical, what's happening. It's been going on for 1,400 years, and we're just starting to see it happen again because they've been quiet for a while. Somewhat quiet.
Paul, with the recent attack in Toronto last April and the attack in London last week, the media always takes the approach of let's not jump to conclusions and we don't know the reason behind the attack. Why do they cover up the fact that it is jihad and has to be confronted head on before they can ever prevent these attacks in the first place?
Well, in the case in London, it's a good question because there's certain patterns that are easily found. Like the ones in the attacks in Europe generally have one extra element. They are usually attacked. The drivers are generally refugees or people not from the country.
Right.
Okay. And that's a general thing. So that right there was a quick tell. This is most likely a jihadi attack. The police in London believed it was a jihadi attack. They immediately were saying terrorism, but the press and the government treasonous people who don't want the people to know the truth are immediately like, well, we can't say anything. In Canada, we had an attack recently, and it was a guy who took a gun and he was shooting in. I think was it Hamilton or I think it was Toronto actually.
Yeah, and it was a restaurant.
Shooting into a restaurant. They still have not released any details on this. What's the cause of it? They're not telling anybody what happened. So people are living in fear in Canada. Is this going to happen again? The question is, what are they preaching in the mosque? There's only a couple people actually reporting on that part, and that's the scary part. People in the United States were saying, well, you can't do that. You can't go investigate mosques. They shut down people from doing that in New York City. But the truth is, if they're preaching this in the mosque, it's going to happen in your community.
Sure.
And we know that certain types of, certain groups of Islam do this on a regular basis.
Paul,
Salafi Islam.
Paul,
Yes.
do we have to be worried about some of the candidates that are running for governor and certain offices around this country? And I'm not saying just because they're Muslims, but some of them and the things that they have said. For instance, in Michigan, you have Abdul Assayed. He's a candidate for the governor. And
he thank God did not win the primary.
Yes, he did not win.
Yes,
but
he was directly connected to the Muslim Brotherhood, had other connections that were threatening and that which led to actual important discussions by counterterrorism groups about will Michigan become a national security threat if he gets elected.
Well, this is what I'm saying. Do we have to worry about? Listen, they put up him,
Absolutely.
and okay, hey, he had ties. They're going to put somebody up that doesn't have ties eventually.
I will. Well, they have two people right now, but that already have ties. But the thing is, the Democrats don't see the dangers in this, and they don't see it because all they're concerned about it is they don't want somebody who's going to love America running for office. They don't want somebody who thinks America is great running for office. They want somebody who is going to destroy America. That's the only people we see running federally for on Democratic platforms. That's their only concern. They want to destroy America. And again, these are communists. We got to stop calling this the Democratic Party. We got to call it the racist, socialist, communist party, because that's exactly what they're. I mean, if you want to tell people if they don't believe me, I'm telling you, one of the easiest things you can do is go watch D'Souza's Death of a Nation and find that out. Go double check his research. He'd be willing to. I know him well enough to say he'd send you the research if you asked him.
Right.
For this, and it's amazing. That's what we're fighting.
But isn't part of it, Paul, and the reason we have you on, and we only have a couple minutes to go, but we saw the idea of liberalism where these two young millennials went through the mountains of the Middle East saying that violence didn't really exist, and they went biking through ISIS strongholds and got murdered. I mean, that type of thinking is also very dangerous, isn't it?
I think they were saying evil doesn't exist.
Right.
And I think some people are just nutty, and they proved themselves wrong. Unfortunately, that required their lives to prove themselves wrong. Not many people are willing to experiment with putting their own lives at risk, and
it's a frightening thing. But listen, Paul, we're coming up on the last minute. I want you to be able to get all your information out there, your books, and also the site where everyone can go listen to you, please.
Okay, I'm going to tell people you want to go to my site to order my books. That is at Paul Sutliff, PaulSutliff, and that is .blogspot.com. You can order the books from there, or you can go to Amazon. One of my books you can find for sale at $450 on Amazon because the Muslim Brotherhood raises the price. They don't want anybody to read it.
Wow.
And I mean, that's funny because every time I go back it's like $50 higher.
Wow.
Good for you.
So, so it makes my book look valuable. And then you can go to Blog Talk Radio, and you can find me on Thursday nights. I'm doing a show, Civilization Jihad Awareness, and you can follow my interviews are put up on YouTube, so you can find me there as well.
Excellent, everybody. That was Paul Sutliff, the author of Civilization Jihad, the Myth of Moderate Islam. I'm sure he'll be back with us anytime soon. Listen, come back. Will Manafort be acquitted? Where's this headed? This is Freedom on Deck.
Welcome back to Freedom on Deck, 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. The redneck here.
Oh, yeah.
The mean one here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You gotta love this story. And we're going into Manafort. Manafort. The jury has questions. They have come back to the judge twice. The first time they were asking for him to further describe, what a reasonable doubt is.
Clarify.
And he did. He clarified it. He actually defined it in a slightly different way, but the same meaning. Mm-hmm. Because ultimately this jury, I think, is really coming down to it. The prosecution has botched this whole thing. And it comes down to Mueller didn't have the evidence that he obviously thought he had, because the jury is, I'm telling you right now, he's going to be acquitted.
Yeah, I think he'll be acquitted, and maybe Mueller gets admonished. Perhaps.
I'd love to see Mueller get trashed. I'd love to see this case come to not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and that's really what it is. I mean, their questioning is, there's some laws. The paperwork that he had to file was, if he owned more than 51% of the company, his wife owns 50%. So if his wife owns 50 and he owns 50, he doesn't technically own 51%. So therefore, did he know that he really had to file? There's a lot of stupid questions like that.
If they nail him to the cross, I can tell you this: Trump will give him a pardon. Trump's already spoken like he will.
Good.
Now, here's what I want to understand.
But I don't think he'll have to.
He's held in solitary confinement. He's grilled 24/7. He looks like he hasn't slept a wink. But when we have a jihadist who has a training camp, a terrorist training camp in New Mexico, training children to shoot other children, how in the hell did they get set out on bail? I know it's totally different. I know these two things don't tie into each other, but how does that work?
Well, it does.
Come on.
It ties into the fact that we have a government who is putting the screws to anyone that has anything to do with this administration or conservatism.
Right.
Look at what happened.
But terrorists are getting set out on bail.
Exactly. Look at what happened to Chris. You know what I mean? Saucier. What happened with him, they hung him out to dry. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton is getting away literally with murder.
Yeah. Yeah,
that woman is untouchable.
It's a huge double standard in this country right now. And you know what it is? Because these judges, in my opinion, are even more detrimental to the American civil prosperity than the politicians themselves. These judges are very dangerous people, Brian.
And I don't understand how these judges have the authority and powers that they do. You're seeing these low-level judges make decisions and block decisions and do these all types of of decisions to do with this administration and different cases in the country and whatnot. And they're low-level judges. We're not talking about the D.C. Supreme Court here.
Because of 8 years under Obama, these low-level liberal judges got way too much power, and that's the bottom line.
Listen, when we come back, we're going to be talking about Trump continues to gain in the black community. Will the wild card for November be blacks in America and the walkaway movement? That's going to be the question. Don't turn that dial. 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. Oh yeah, freedom on deck.
Time to play the game!
Oh, yeah. We don't play games on Freedom on Deck. Though.
Not around here.
Not around here. But it's all about the game.
It's all about the game.
And here's the game that the Democrats don't realize. Is the game's about to get turned on their heads. Because a new poll reveals shocking results on what black voters think of Trump. A new poll released on Wednesday from Rasmussen reports revealed that President Donald Trump's approval rating in the black community is exploding, almost doubling from a year ago. The poll showed that nationally, the president's job approval rating is split, with 49 approving and 49 disapproving. When it comes to how black voters felt about Trump, Rasmussen found a surprising 36% approval of Trump's job performance, even as mainstream news outlets have ratcheted up racially charged coverage of the president, because I think people are realizing it's bull.
Absolutely.
The poll comes after fired White House staffer Omarosa Newman has cast Trump as a racist in multiple media interviews, claiming that there are tapes of Trump exists where he says the N-word. However, no hard evidence of the alleged tapes have come to light.
Actually, in the book, she says she's
a liar.
She believes there are tapes.
She's a liar. She's a jaded, fired ex-employee loser from The Apprentice.
I just want to say, Brian, the media is not putting out what it says in the book. In the book, I've read it. Yep. I've read the transcripts. She said she believes that there is a tape where Trump says the N-word. So if you're going to start saying that there is, well, provide it already. You put this information out over a week ago and nothing because you said you believe that there is a tape and there's not, folks.
Well, you got to keep going to the numbers because a report from earlier this year that was featured in the Atlantic revealed that the Trump support from the black community had doubled from approximately 8% in late 2016 to 17% early this year. So in just over a year, his approval rating more than doubled.
Absolutely. And
it keeps going up. Why does it keep going up?
I wonder.
Because you have
jobs.
You have the economy. People in the black community are doing better. They're being disparaged by the left and the mainstream media whenever they have a belief system that is conservative in nature.
There's a woman in Chicago, a video that was put out about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I called Lee Elsie on this, and it was after all this explosion of violence in Chicago. There were 60 shootings in one weekend in a certain area of Chicago. And the woman is marching, and she says to the folks that are filming her, of course it's not CNN or MSNBC.
Oh, no.
Or any of the regular outlets.
No.
She says, we've been let down. Rahm Emanuel would rather stick up for non-citizens than his own people. And she said, we want President Trump in Chicago. And she said, and you know what? I'm a Democrat.
Right.
I'm a Democrat. I want President Trump here because our elected officials that are Democrats would rather side with non-citizens than us. And you know what? A lot of the black community feels that way. Whether you liberals like it or not. Right. They are right. They're choosing non-citizens. You know why, Brian? These numbers tell them that they're losing a grip.
Well, here's the deal. Strip away all the colors. Strip away all the labels. Strip away all the political bull that is going on. Strip it all away and just simply have it as people in this country, okay? And what do people in this country at the end of the day, what are they? They're Americans. They're citizens. They're citizens.
Right.
I don't care if somebody has a different point of view than I do. You have a different point of view? Great. We should still be able to get together on Saturday and have burgers on the back deck.
Before we went to break, you said the walk away movement, the hashtag walk away.
That's right.
There are so many people right now that were voted for Democrats for so long that have believed the big lie that this was going to make America come together once we voted Obama in, and everybody would be
it'd be kumbaya.
Kumbaya.
Well, I think
has that happened? No.
There was a moment when he got voted in
at the very beginning.
At the very beginning, I think when he was elected, I think a lot of America said, you know, we just jumped a hurdle. We just made a milestone in this country.
Wrong guy.
Absolutely.
Absolute
he
wrong
was
guy.
He was no Nelson Mandela for the black community in America.
Well, I'll tell you. Well, man,
he had the opportunity.
I have my own opinions on Mandela.
Right, but you should get what I'm saying.
He ain't no Ben Carson.
No, but he had the opportunity. He had the baton. He had the ability to lift up black Americans in this country like no one else has ever done.
But he was
maybe the closest person that ever did that, and he was shot and killed, was Martin Luther King.
Obama was too much of an ideologue.
He was too much of a Muslim.
Well, that too, but let's listen here. Right now, black voters are seeing that when somebody strays, like a Candace Owens, or somebody strays like a Kanye West,
like a
or
dog,
somebody
like a hunting dog that strays, you shoot him.
or somebody strays like a Dr. Ben Carson because he was one time Democrat, or somebody strays from that I shouldn't say plantation because I'm not black, but I'm going to say it. From the plantation, from the Democrat plantation, what do? They verbally attack you. They put out hit jobs on the internet. There was even a meme I saw where they dressed up Candace Owens as a Klansman and said she is one of the many black white supremacists.
Right. Like, you're a dumb you know what.
Are you kidding me? Because she wants to promote the job growth in the black community, or she wants to promote the idea that somebody that is a black American can have a different thought process, that the liberals give you this stigma that you have to have. Sure. And it's funny. It's amazing to me to see on social media all these lily white liberals calling Candace Owens a
supremacist.
Not only that, worse than that. I can't say the words that they say.
Oh, jeez.
It's worse. And they're saying it, and we need to wake up and see that. They will do anything. If you're not staying in your camp, they will attack you.
Oh, look what they did to Diamond and Silk.
Oh, big time.
I mean, they totally censored them, took their videos down, the whole 9 yards. I mean, for what? For what? Because they are waking up people across this country, and especially black Americans in this country. They're waking people up. You have so many people. You have the good sheriff, man. Sheriff Clark. I love Sheriff Clark. He is a good man.
Good man with a
good
plan.
Man, has served this country, has served his community for many, many years. The things that get said about that man.
Do you understand how many employees have gotten good jobs and wages through President Donald J. Trump throughout his life?
Absolutely.
Are you kidding me? You think that man's a racist? I still haven't seen any evidence. Show me the evidence.
Yeah.
It's because I haven't seen it. I'm sick of the rhetoric. I'm sick of the talking. Oh, well, he said a thing here, and where is it? Oh, well, he did it then, and now we just have to bring it up. It's somewhere. We don't have it. This is what they do. They keep you going around in circles.
Right.
And what does he do? I mean, think about the people that he's brought into this administration. Who is chairing HUD right now? Dr. Ben Carson. And you know what? The reviews that HUD has got are very good right now. Even the New York Times had to give a good review on what Dr. Ben Carson is doing. But the hashtag corrupt media won't report on these things, because if they do, they'll have to give credit to who? Donald J. Trump. That's the issue here. It's not so much that Candace Owens or Ben Carson or Kanye West, or you take your name, you take your pick, are supporting a Republican. Yes, that's part of it, but it's Trump. And because he's turning the economy around and doing such a good job, they're evil racists, even though they're blacks.
Well,
they're racist against their own people. And what a stupid idea is that, folks? Come on.
Well, you got to look at this too. I mean, he's had awards been given to him. You know what I mean? I mean, he's done so much with Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson. I mean, he's got pictures of him.
They turned on him.
Oh, of course they did. But I mean, he's got pictures of himself, spending time with them at fundraisers and all this other different stuff, and yet he's still the racist. He's still this white supremacist. He's still this KKK fascist, dictator.
Yeah,
going like, you're an idiot.
I saw this the other day on Facebook. someone I know, someone you know, had a speech that Donald Trump was putting out there, and him and his friend were going back and forth and saying, oh, look, they put the token blacks in the front for Donald Trump, the Uncle Toms in the crowd. And, you know, when you see Donald Trump speak, he'll say this. He says they won't show the crowd when he's pointing to CNN, MSNBC in the back. He says they won't show you the black for Trump signs. They won't show you the Latino for Trump signs because they don't want you to know the numbers.
That's right. They don't want you to know the truth.
And the truth is, these morons that believe that are basically brainwashed by the mainstream media have no clue what's really going on in this country. This country is thriving right now. And one day they're going to wake up in 2020 and see that President Trump is their president again.
Yep.
And it's going to be a nightmare for them. But guess what? It's going to be a dream come true for the country.
I got the numbers right here. In 1986, Trump received an Ellis Island Medal of Honor with Rosa Parks. What a racist.
What a racist.
What a racist.
Oh, my God. And Aretha Franklin, who always had nothing but good things to say about President Trump, who recently passed this week, and pictures all over the internet with President Trump. And he says in a speech when he was talking about Aretha, I've worked with her many times. And the leftists went nuts. They were like, what's he talking about? He's employed her. She was never working for President Trump. The Taj Mahal, Trump Tower. You don't think Aretha Franklin has performed at events that Donald Trump has owned and sponsored? Give me a break.
How about in 1997, the Anti-Defamation League president praised Trump for tackling the issues of discrimination in private clubs? How about the fact that he sheltered Jennifer Hudson after her family was murdered in 2008?
That's right. I remember.
But he's a racist.
That's right. Totally. Any conservative that's moving forward is a racist, whether you're black, white, indifferent.
Keep walking away. Keep walking away. Keep walking away. Keep walking away.
We're going to come back from Cortez in New York to Halquist in Vermont. The Democrat Party has lost it. Cuckoo, cuckoo. Come on back to Freedom on Deck.
Are you scared?
Oh yeah, baby. Bringing it back to the Freedom on Deck. Oh yeah. Yeah. We're going to talk about Christine, also known as, born as Christopher Hallquist, winning the Vermont primary.
You can't say that.
Becoming the first openly transgender major party nominee for governor.
Oh.
In the fall of 2015, the thought of running for office was not even in the realm of possibilities for Christopher Hallquist. He said in an interview with the Washington Post, Hallquist, then CEO of Vermont Electric Cooperative, was in the midst of coming out professionally as a woman to his employees and worried that they might not accept him. The company's website still indicated that the firm was led by a man. Vermont Alternative Weekly 7 Days reported at the time. His emails were still signed by his former name, or by Christopher Hallquist. So you have this, I don't know what you want to call it, but the Democrats have lost it, man. They've lost it. You have, what's her name? Acosta Cortez or whatever down here.
Scatioto Cortez.
Yeah. And I mean, off the rails socialist.
And what about, like you said, the other folks that are running as Muslims that, if you look into their background, to the Muslim Brotherhood
in Michigan, Minnesota.
This is the Democrat Party.
This is the Democrat Party.
And you know what? The scary part is most of these folks that are this transgender individual, this man, Christopher Holocaust, if it was up to the Muslim Brotherhood, would have his head lobbed off or would be thrown from the top of a building.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there is such a mental illness here that is involved, like Dr. Savage says, liberalism is a mental disorder. You see it right here. And tell me that Christine Holocaust, and Brian just showed me a picture, close-up, handsome man, that this individual was voted in for his policy? No. They were voted in, he was voted in for identity politics.
Yeah.
And that's all it is, because he's a transgender. He, she, it, I'll call it it. You wanted to call it he, I'll call it it. It wants to be identified as a woman, and because of that simple fact, won the primary for the Democrats in Vermont.
Well, it gets
That
good.
is crazy.
It gets good because Christopher Holocaust, the country's first major party transgender candidate, as the newly minted Democrat nominee for the governorship of Vermont, once tweeted an insinuation that radicalized Christians are a problem that America's currently tolerate.
Hey, guess what, Chris? We're not going to push you off a building.
It said, it further goes, and we worry about Sharia law. Hogquist tweeted in June of 2017, along with a link to an article from an LGBTQ nation about a girl disqualified from a soccer team because she looked like a boy.
Wait, he defended Sharia law?
He actually said, and we worry about Sharia law.
Is he kidding me?
He said, radicalized Christians are part of the American landscape, and we tolerate it. So that should, for any Vermonters that might be listening to the show, that ought to tell you a little bit about this Democratic candidate running in your state.
Even for him to say, if he thinks that radical Christianity, whatever that is, and there probably are some factions out there that are, for him to say we worry about Sharia law, does this guy know what they would do to him? Does he know what ISIS would do to him?
Well,
or is he one of those morons like those people that biked through these stronghold devices that got stabbed to death?
yeah, ran over first, mowed down, then stabbed to
This
death.
is what it is. Liberalism is run amok right now.
It's
the
a
United
mental
States of
disorder.
America, it is a mental disorder, just like Savage says. There is definite truth to that.
Now, you tell me, Mr. Mean One, that is not a boy. What he is sitting there, the boy that was not or disqualified,
I see it.
supposedly being a girl.
An 8-year-old
Okay.
school soccer team was disqualified because she looks like a boy.
Right.
Okay. Yeah,
Boy or girl?
that's a boy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe it's a boy or a girl that identifies as a boy, whatever. Same confusion as Holocaust. But either way, this is the craziness. And I just love, the bigger issue that I have with what he said, okay, about Christians and Sharia law and this whole thing about this kid and the da-da-da and all this nonsense, is that you want to run a state. You want to be the governor, the leader of a state
Right.
in this country. And this is how you feel about constituents that are Christians in your state.
It's a foolish statement. I guarantee if you asked him to his face, he would say it was something I said. I shouldn't have said it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What I felt was
Give me
that
the pass
was
because
this
I'm a
way.
Democrat.
But the whole thing is, this guy really doesn't understand what could happen to him by jihadists. What you said there really shocks me. It shocks me. It's one thing for him to go against the Christian community, but for him to say we shouldn't really look at Sharia law
well, he didn't
that
say,
way.
he just
Sharia law is you'd
Right.
be dead, buddy.
Well,
You'd
his
be,
exact-
you would be one of the first on the chopping block. Believe
His
me.
exact words were, and we worry about Sharia law.
Oh, do we?
Er,
We have a lot of dangerous Democrats voting right now. And we have a lot of dangerous Democrats running right now, and a lot of dangerous Democratic-funded groups creating havoc throughout the United States of America. We have somebody in New York that is our governor that said America was never great. We have a socialist that made it pretty far in New York. We have this dangerous guy, and I will call him a guy, Hallquist in Vermont, that is basically saying that Christians are no good in this country. And the Democrat Party has been infiltrated in such a way that I don't know how any sane American can look at them as a viable option.
You have radical Muslims that are going to become part of the landscape in our government. It's going to happen. You have Democrats like Maxine Waters, okay, going out screaming from the soapbox, talking about disparaging people in this government when she is part of this government. It's happening. People are being forced out of restaurants. This is the landscape right now in our country. This is why the walkaway movement is gaining steam. This is why people in this country are waking up. This is why you're not going to see a blue wave come November.
Exactly. Listen, folks, next week we will not be here. It's the weekend of the birthday party at the Mohegan Sun Cabaret Lounge. You're going to see Wayne Allen Root, Colonel Rob Simmons, Lee Elsey, John LeBoutelier. We're sorry we're not going to be there. We wish we could be, but we just can't. But the following weekend, come on back to Freedom on Deck, because we're going to rock the joint out as always. Same Freedom time, same Freedom channel. Let's come together and make America great again. Actually, let's keep America great always.
Yeah.
Good day.